How to read verse. State Standard HS1.T.CR2.B. Examine and justify original ideas and artistic choices in a theatrical work based on critical analysis, background knowledge, and/or historical and cultural context. Cross-Cultural State Standard ELA-literacy.RL.9-10.5. Analyze how an author's choices concerning how to structure a text create effects within it. Shakespeare's verse plays are written in a style of verse called Iambic Pentameter. Penta is from the Greek word that means five. So when you have a pentagon, you have a five-sided shape. When you have a penta anything, it's a five of whatever that thing is. Meter is a poetic term that refers to syllables and patterns of emphasis, but more specifically and more accurately, the meter of a verse refers to how many feet are in that line. Meter is a word that means to measure. If you are a meter reader for the gas company, then your job is to go around and measure how much gas has been used by a particular household. So to meter something is to measure something. And in this case, we're measuring poetic. In poetry, a foot or feet are groups of syllables. So like a foot in mathematics is a group of inches, specifically 12 inches. In poetry, a foot or feet is a group of syllables, and that number is going to vary depending on what style of meter we're using. So when you put those two words together, penta meaning five and meter meaning to measure, so the word pentameter refers to something that is in measures of five or groups of five. In this particular style of verse, you are going to find lines of poetry that have 5 feet or 5 groups of syllables. Then the word in front of pentameter tells you specifically what kind of foot is going to be used. There are all kinds of poetic feet. There are amphibrachs, which are groups of 3 syllables. There are trochees, which are pairs of syllables. There are pyrrhic feet, which are single syllables. But the kind of foot, the kind of poetic foot that Shakespeare used and that the ancient Greek used in their blank verse was the iamb, spelled I-A-M-B. It's not I am that I am, it's an iamb with a B sound on the end there. So the iamb is a pair of syllables, meaning 2, and that pair follows a certain pattern of syllable stress. The softer or weaker or unemphasized syllable, the unstressed syllable, is the first one, and the loud or strong or emphasized or stressed syllable is the second one. There are as many ways to express that as there are words in the English language, frankly. There are a lot of teachers who say soft, loud when describing this pair. There are some who are sticklers for poetry who will say unstressed, stressed. I will use either unstressed, stressed, or I will use soft, loud, or I will use weak, strong. What I need you to understand is that the more powerful syllable is the second one in the pair. So if we're going to use nonsense words, nonsense syllables to describe this, it would sound like this. Da-dum, da-dum. So I'm a little quieter on that first syllable. The second syllable is a little louder and higher in pitch. Da-dum. When you put those two words together, you get something called iambic pentameter. So iambic pentameter is a line of poetry or verse that has 5 pairs of syllables following that soft, loud, weak, strong, unstressed, stressed, unemphasized, emphasized pattern. The quieter syllable comes first. To put it another way, iambic pentameter has 10 syllables in the line because there are 5 pairs, so 5 times 2 is 10. 10 total syllables in a line of iambic pentameter, and every even-numbered one is loud. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You could also get on your feet and jump this out. Crouching, getting ready to jump into the air, is your soft syllable, and jumping is your loud syllable, so you should try it. Get ready, and jump, and jump, and jump, and jump, and jump. That's kind of like what your vocal cords are doing when you are reading out a line of iambic pentameter and really making the emphasis pattern or the stress pattern really noticeable. Is you are putting a lot of kinetic energy behind your vocal cords to make those loud syllables really loud. So here are some examples of lines of iambic pentameter from works by Shakespeare. I've got some sonnets for you, and I've got some lines from some passages of Shakespearean plays. The misconception with iambic pentameter is that a lot of newbies think that actors are supposed to say it like this. So the first line is, "When I do count the clock that tells the time." And newbies think you're supposed to read it like this: "When I do count the clock that tells the time." No. That's very cute that you think that, but no. As teachers and even as actors, a lot of times we will do things to our scripts to make the loud syllables noticeable to the eyeball, but we don't actually say the line like that. When I speak this line normally, like a regular old person just saying a line out loud, the emphasis pattern is there in a normal delivery, like this: "When I do count the clock that tells the time." But it's very subtle to hear it. It's there. Every second syllable is emphasized. It is louder. It is stronger than the one that precedes it when I give that line normally. "When I do count the clock that tells the time." But it's very subtle because we do this all of the time in natural speech. We will emphasize some syllables over others, and we're so used to hearing it that oftentimes when we go to analyze this in speaking, it's really difficult to pick up on because we are so used to it that it's hard to identify. It's kind of like when you're swimming and you get used to the temperature of the water. When you first dive in, it's really cold and it shocks your system. But then you get used to the temperature of the water and you can't feel a temperature anymore. You cannot feel that the water is a different temperature than your body or sometimes even than the air because you get used to it and you don't notice it. So very similar to that, we are so used to hearing people put stress on syllables when they're speaking, we have a hard time hearing it. Which is why we often over-exaggerate this emphasis pattern when we're teaching Shakespeare. But I would like to formally state that you are not supposed to say these lines like that. You're supposed to deliver them with a natural tone of voice when you are acting these lines. So let me over-exaggerate the pattern of emphasis, the meter of this line. "When I do count the clock that tells the time." Every second syllable in an iamb, in a pair of syllables, is going to be the louder one. If I were to reverse that, it would sound kind of stupid. It might sound like this: "When I do count the clock that tells the time." If I mix it up, I end up putting emphasis or exaggeration or stress on the unimportant words. As it is, I count, clock, tell, time. These are all of the words in this line that carry the meaning, whereas when, do, the, that, the, they're just the articles and transition words. They don't tell us anything independently of the sentence. So that's also a good tip for figuring out if you've got the emphasis pattern marked correctly when you're marking lines of iambic pentameter. Usually, the emphasis is going to fall on the words that carry the meaning. Now, a lot of times you'll get multi-syllable words, and in the English language, every multi-syllable word has a stressed syllable and unstressed, or loud syllables and soft syllables. Words like today. Today I went to the store. The word today is 2 syllables, and the second one has stress or emphasis on it. If I were to mix that up and say it the other way, people would look at me funny because I would be speaking English in a really stupid way. It would sound like this. Today I went to the store. I need your homework turned in today. That's correct. That's normal. What if I said it like this? I need your homework turned in today. You would think I was being silly or dumb, like I'm playing some kind of character. It's not the natural way we say that word. Similar in Shakespeare, we don't ever alter our emphasis patterns to make the meter work, ever. We always are going to pronounce the word correctly. And the magic of Shakespeare is that he's put these words together as if he was fitting them into a puzzle. The loud syllables are like the sticky outy bits of a puzzle, and they have to fit in a certain order, otherwise the pattern isn't going to work. Here's another line. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state. When I say that line normally, the stress pattern is there, but it's a bit difficult to hear. So let me over-exaggerate this for you so that you can hear where the emphasis of these words are. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state. The multi-syllable words like disgrace have a stress pattern unto themselves. Disgrace, disgrace. The emphasis is on the second syllable. A word like fortune, on the other hand, emphasizes the first syllable. Fortune, fortune. If I were to mix up the stress on those two words, they might sound like this. Instead of disgrace, it would be disgrace. You are a disgrace to your family. You are a disgrace to your family. The pattern's wrong. Makes it sound silly. I'm off to make my fortune. Emphasis on the first syllable. What if I emphasize the second one? I'm off to make my fortune. You sound stupid. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to tell you Shakespeare will never ask you as the actor to pronounce a word in a way that makes you sound stupid unless you are one of the prose characters who's comic relief. When it comes to the poetry, when it comes to the verse, Shakespeare will never, ever expect the actor to mispronounce a word. Ever. He has put the words in the lines of Iambic Pentameter so that the pattern of emphasis of the words themselves fit into the soft, loud, soft, loud, soft, loud, soft, loud, soft, loud bass. If you are ever scanning a line of Iambic Pentameter and you cannot get words to be pronounced correctly following that pattern, pay attention to that line. Shakespeare's trying to tell you something. That is the genius of him. He doesn't make mistakes. When the words force you to break the soft, loud pattern, he's telling you something. But for now, let's focus on what it looks like when it's normal before we start screwing with it. Here's another one. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. There are words in this line that you recognize and words you don't. Compare is a word that you're very familiar with. Compare. Emphasis on the second syllable, which means when I put it in a line of Iambic Pentameter, pair, the compare part, pair, needs to fall into the pattern where a loud syllable is supposed to go. Summer, on the other hand, summer has the loud syllable first. Summer, which means when I put it into a line of Iambic Pentameter in that soft, loud pattern, that some needs to fall into the pattern under where a loud syllable is supposed to go. If it were a puzzle, some would be the sticky outy bit, and I got to make sure the sticky outy bit fits in a correct spot. When I look at this line, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? The pattern is correct. So how do you keep track of, number one, what the pattern is supposed to look like? Number two, do the words' natural emphasis patterns fit into the puzzle the way they're supposed to? This is kind of confusing, Miss Street. Is there a way that you can help us keep track of all this? Why, yes, there is, ladies and gentlemen. When actors prepare to play a Shakespearean character, they spend time marking up their script. Every actor has their own method for doing this, but the most common is using a system of horizontal dash marks and vertical slashes. Some English teachers like to use a little baby letter U and then a straight up and down like accent mark. I don't like that. To me, when I go to use that when I mark up my scripts, it looks sloppy and messy and it's really hard to read. And if I've done it very quickly, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between a little U and a little accent mark. So instead, I like to use horizontal dashes and vertical slashes. They're really easy to keep straight from one another and really easy to see the difference when I'm marking up a script. This is a process called scanning a script. Scanning is the verb form of the noun scansion. So to scan a script is to mark the script to show the patterns of emphasis on the words, and then to check that pattern and make sure it's following the soft, loud iambic meter all the way across the line. The noun form of this is scansion. So when I do this process, I'm checking the scansion of each line to ensure it's following the iambic pentameter. And the whole point of this, ladies and gentlemen, the entire point of this exercise, the entire point of going through this process is to look for the places where the meter is broken. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to tell you that if Shakespeare wrote 100% perfect iambic pentameter for all 37 plays and all 154 sonnets, there would be no point in studying it. However, Shakespeare does occasionally break the iambic pentameter. Occasionally, he intentionally puts too many syllables in a line, or he messes up the emphasis pattern. And when he does that, he's giving you clues, actor, about how to play your part. He's directing you. You're getting acting tips from the playwright himself about how he wants this part played. From an English student standpoint, this is also a great way to find the lines that are important or to find emotional shifts in the text. It's a fantastic citation to use in a paper when you can point to a specific line, explain to your English teacher that Shakespeare has broken the meter, and then explain what that means as justification for why you feel a particular line is important or why you feel that there is an emotional shift in a scene. This is going to impress the pants off your English teachers, and it's going to make you a really freaking good Shakespearean actor. That's why we study it, so that we know how to play these parts. Imagine it like this. You guys are 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. Some of you are 18 already. If you haven't gotten your driver's license yet, you will be getting it soon. If you have gotten your driver's license, you haven't had it for very long, and you all are either getting ready to take the driver's license test or you have recently taken the driver's license test. Think about iambic pentameter like the rules of the road. If every single mile of every single road had the exact same rules, there would be no point in painting anything on the roads because we would just know what the rules were for every mile of every road. But think about driving down Highway 12. I'm driving down the road and I get to that stretch near Moseley Ferry. And instead of a double yellow line, suddenly the lines on the road become dashed. What does that mean? Well, normally, I'm not supposed to cross over to the left side of the road while I'm driving. Unless I'm turning into a driveway, I'm not supposed to be on the left side of the road. I'm supposed to stay on the right side of the road. But when the lines on the road turn dashed instead of double yellow, that means that for that stretch, for that area, I'm allowed to cross over to the left side of the road to pass a vehicle in front of me as long as there's no oncoming traffic. It's the difference in the lines on the road that let me know that it's okay right there, but it's not okay in front of Canada's store. Because in front of Canada's, the lines go back to double yellow. Iambic pentameter is the double yellow line. Iambic pentameter is the normal. Iambic pentameter is the double yellow line. Iambic pentameter lets you know there's nothing special going on for this mile, for this line. What we're looking for when we study iambic pentameter are the places where there are dashed lines, are the places where there's writing painted onto the road. We're looking for those differences that let us know other rules apply and that our behavior needs to change to accommodate those rules. So let's take a look at what a double yellow, plain boring, normal line of iambic pentameter looks like when it is scanned, when it has been marked to show the scansion. This line reads like this. My love is as a fever, longing still for that which longer nurseth the disease. So I can mark single syllable words like my or love as stressed or unstressed, just depending on the pattern. Wherever they happen to land, that's where I'm going to put a mark. So I know the pattern is supposed to be soft, loud, soft, loud, soft, loud. So for my single syllable words, I'm going to decide whether or not they get stress based on where they are in the pattern. What I really need to be looking for is words with more than one syllable, like fever, longing. And I start by marking those words according to their stress pattern. Fever, which is the stressed syllable in the word fever. Fee, it's the beginning. So the FE is going to get a little upright slash mark above it. VER, ver, is going to get a horizontal dash above it. This shows me that fee is a stressed syllable and ver is an unstressed, or fee is a loud and ver is a soft. The word longing, which is the loud, which is the soft syllable. Longing, long. So I will put my upright mark to indicate stress or loud above long, and my horizontal mark above ing to indicate that that is a soft or unstressed syllable. Go back and mark the rest of the line and see if the pattern works. Soft, loud, soft, loud, soft. I'm on fee now, so loud, soft, loud, soft, loud. Yep. I can make that line fit the pattern. It's got 10 syllables, and every second syllable is a loud or a stressed syllable. So officially, here's the process of how you scan a script. We're going to take a line like, if music be the food of love, play on. And the first thing we're going to do is chop it up. I like to use big, bold lines right through the middle of the text to chop up where my syllables are going to go. If mu, there are my first two syllables. Next two, zick be, big, bold line. The food, big, bold line. Of love, big, bold line. Play on. Notice that it is okay to cut a word in half. I had to cut music in half because my first two syllables, if mu, they are a pair unto themselves. So iams don't have to be on just one word. You can use pieces of more than one word to create your iam. My second two take zick be to create my second iam. So I'm just going through, chopping my line up into pairs. That's step one. Step two can go one of two ways. Either you can go ahead and place your dash marks and upright slash marks or your soft and loud syllable marks all the way across following your iams and then go back and check and make sure that they are correct. Or you can go ahead and put your stress marks on your multi-syllable words and then fill in the rest of the pattern and make sure it's correct. So I could just go soft mark, loud mark, soft mark, loud mark, soft mark, loud mark, soft, loud, and then read the line following the pattern that I marked and check and make sure it sounds good. If music be the food of love, play on. If music be the food of love, play on. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Or I could do it the other way. I could erase all of that, find my 2 or 3 syllable words, and go ahead and mark those. So music. Where's the loud syllable? Mu. Music. So I'm going to put my upright or my loud mark over mu and a soft mark over zik. I don't have any other multisyllable words in this line, so I fill in the rest of the pattern and see if it works, and yep, turns out, sure it does. No matter which method you use, you always want to check and make sure that the line sounds right the way you've marked it. So you are going to overemphasize anything that you have marked as a loud syllable, and you're going to underemphasize anything you've marked as a soft syllable. You're really exaggerating that stress, and make sure you're not making yourself sound stupid the way you've marked up this line. If music be the food of love, play on. That sounds okay. Obviously, I would say it more natural. If music be the food of love, play on. But when I overemphasize it, I'm not making myself mispronounce anything, and I'm not putting emphasis on unimportant words. Sounds pretty good? I think we're good to go. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how you scan a script.